right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich Celenza. Thanks for checking out my channel. So what I'm going to call today's podcast, or what I'm going to get into, is less is more when creating things. And I think this is a mistake that I've made numerous times, and I just want to let people know about it, and hopefully it can help them. But I think if you're somebody who likes to create things, and this can include art, business, I don't care if it's at film, television, you're an author, or just somebody out there looking to create anything in life, at the beginning, I'm telling you to pull way back. Now, a lot of people may be like, you're crazy because you'll never get anything accomplished. I beg to differ. Big time. What I went through and what I'm going to explain to you, really, and what I've learned, I think, I wish somebody would have taught me this at the beginning of starting, business endeavors I've gone after, and again, creating things. From when I really learned a lot when I was making a film. Because, man, when you start taking out a film and you never made a film and you don't know what you're doing, which a lot of people, when they go out to do certain things, especially experiment with something new, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You think you do, you don't. And you kind of jump in head first and there's no water in the pool. Like, that's a goofy expression, but it is true. And I think if people put the brakes on, first learn as much as they can about it, and be with people maybe possibly that are doing it to kind of see what you maybe emulate or what you do differently, but learn as much as you can before really going gun-ho into it. Now, some people like to just jump into things, like myself, and learn as you go, which is great too, right? I always had the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to go make a movie. I don't care. I don't even care how it turns out to a certain degree. I'm going to make it. I'm going to do the best I can. And I just go through the process. I did that a couple times, which was a blast, don't get me wrong. Then I decided after a few films, or being involved in a few, and then writing a bunch of screenplays, I said I'm going to start my own clothing line. Now, this is where I truly learned what type of, I guess you could say, arrogance I went through, because I designed my own clothing line. It's called Sir Loser Wear. It's a clothing line for people who hate to lose. And our slogan was, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, as long as you come in first. Don't think I'm here pitching that, because I don't even have that anymore. But that's what I decided on doing. My family's from the garment industry, so I said, you know what? I was involved with fashion and all these different types of things. But I loved fashion, but I also loved sports and athletics. So out of a fluke, I went to go make some shirts at a place that I lived right down the street from, that I ended up becoming very good friends with the owner. And then another guy there, which if you know about Strong Arm Sports or listen or watch any of my videos, I'm always, he's one of my sponsors. I met Tarzus and Mordecai. Tarzus was the owner of the clothing line, who I love very much, and Mordecai owned his own clothing line for the most part. They may have had some, together doing some things. I don't know. But I ended up hanging out with Mordecai because he was kind of doing his own clothing line. We went to shows together. He was showing me certain things. And I was just so gung-ho on creating this massive clothing line off the bat. Started with a big website, or the best I could. And I had a partner as well helping me with this. But then I started coming up with all these different designs, hiring designers. I wanted to go mainstream sports. I wanted to go gamer wear. I wanted to do extreme sports. And I'll tell you the truth, I was just so gung-ho on all this. And again, I remember having a conversation with Mordecai and him saying, dude, man, and he had some logos and some things, but I was just bonkers. And he was already established. I'm creating this huge lookbook. I'm doing men and women. I'm doing athletic wear for when you're working out, not working out. It was bonkers. He said, we discussed this on the podcast with him. I remember him saying, just do one, dude, or two. Figure out your niche. Figure out, who likes your product. Because I'm thinking everyone's going to like my product. Because everybody's telling me they like it and they're laughing and all this shit. But if I would have just backed up even then and said, hey, let's just start with the slogan. Maybe people don't like the slogan. And this is before really the internet infancy. So I did have a website, but still things were more or less being done at shows or catalogs and all that. But I look back at that, and I just say, wow, you know what? That was absolutely true. If I would have just backed everything up, because again, I didn't even know my market. I didn't know who would like it, who wouldn't. And I thought by testing everyone, that would be the way to go about it. After spending so much time, money, and effort, I was exhausted at the end. And again, if I would have pulled back, did less at the beginning and just kind of concentrated. That doesn't mean less work. Maybe what I should also be saying is just concentrating on specific things. Now, I know you may also say, no, you got to, if you only concentrate here, you may miss out over there and there and there. I get it. But I've even gone through this, many things within my, throughout my life. I was also, just recently, so I was starting the podcast and the YouTube, and I also was creating a program, and those are cool, and I call it trimming the fat. I don't know if you ever listen to me. I have a co-host sometimes, Robert Beninati, and he loves a certain production value, and so do I. And he wants to make things always better, which is great. And I call him, I say I'm always trimming the fat to make things done easier, truthfully, so I could get my content out quicker, not as much work, truthfully, as far as editing goes, and audio and all that, and video. And I say, I'm trimming the fat. He's always making things fatter. But I guess that falls under this direction again. And I'm just telling you, the more I pull back sometimes and simplify things, the better off I usually was and the more successful I was. Even when creating my app, and I, again, do things independently, the first time I went through everything, I had total control of it. But I just took it and worked with it and was not rushing it. And believe me, that exhausted me too, because I thought it would only take a year, and it took a few years. Still not even done with it. Still not done with it. I had my first guy come in who I helped, who was my developer, or whatever you want to call him, and he tried stealing it from me or tried selling it, which was a fiasco. Then I ended up in an issue with him, a lawsuit, and then I had to flip it, and I'll find someone else and start entirely over. But by me starting over the second time again, how much more I knew, and I don't want anybody to have to go through something second time, but I don't know if you've ever done something the second time, you really start to figure out, my God, how many things I did wrong the first time. Even by who I hired, how much time I wasted, or taking on too much again, when I could have just been focusing on minimizing it, not making it as complicated. So I just really want to do a podcast on this. If you're doing anything in your life, I'm just telling you, to really sometimes focus in on less. And I know that may sound absolutely crazy. Again, that doesn't mean less work. If you are to even simplify things, if you look at a website hypothetically, or you want to create one, I don't know if you created one in the old days. I've created so many. Originally, a lot of websites were so fucking complicated. People would go on them, and there was pages upon pages. You'd scroll, you had to read, you had all these different type of things, all these type of links and whatever. It was exhausting, and as time went on, including myself, the more I simplified my websites, or the more people, I think, in general, simplified them, I think the better off we all were. So if you're going to start anything, I would think in that nature. So, and I am going to wrap it up with this, with working out, because a lot of times I like to give advice on fitness. If you're somebody working out, because I really like to talk about health, because I want to help people with their health, do not get caught up with other people's workout. I'm sorry if you listened to my podcast before. You need to back up again and figure out specifically what works for you. Any type of exercise. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. That is a loser. Most people barely know how to hit a body part, or they barely know how to do things correctly. Then they go full throttle, even with a trainer. I wouldn't even hire a trainer at the beginning, even though they're there to help you sometimes, which if you can afford one, God bless. Hopefully they're going to show you the right ways to do things. Most people can hire them. But when people start working out, a lot of times, you just got to start off slow. Get in shape to go get in shape to a certain degree, if that makes sense. And I know that may not make sense, but it's kind of like somebody's going to boot camp. I say, hopefully they run a little bit, they lose some weight, and they get in a certain type of shape, so when they get to boot camp, they don't get destroyed. So I may do a podcast on that. Get in shape to get in shape. I kind of like that. So anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there, but please, also, if you start slow, I think a lot of times, here's my deal, starting slow and building that momentum more and more and more, instead of also starting hardcore and going, real hardcore where it exhausts you, or you just don't get the results you expect at a certain amount of time. I think that's one of the killers that makes most people quit. Be the turtle, not the rabbit. I talk about it all the time, and just keep building momentum. And as time goes on, you're going to learn a lot more, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. I don't care if you go hardcore, extreme, or if you go very slow. But sometimes when you go slower, truthfully, you save a lot of money, okay? And just by going slower, I think you sometimes realize too, this may or may not be for you. When sometimes you dive in head first and go so extreme, spending so much money and time, and it's not for you, you're kind of stuck. So I'll wrap it up there. If you get a chance, check out my YouTube channel, Rich Celenza. Also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. All right? All right. And you can find all this on richcelenza.com. Take care.